The Fire Caste form the military mainstay of the T'au Empire. They are professional soldiers, trained and equipped to the highest possible standard before being deployed to wherever their people need them most. The might of the Fire Caste maintains the ongoing momentum of T'au colonial expansion and forms the final argument against those who would impede the advance of the greater good. The warriors of the Fire Caste are trained from their youngest days and indoctrinated into the traditions and philosophies of the Code of Fire. They are raised to value honor and reason. They appreciate the application of balanced and well thought out strategy and the maintenance of self-control. Never will the Fire Caste fall back into the madness and barbarity of the Mon T'au. To this end, the central pillars of T'au military doctrine are superior mobility and the application of overwhelming firepower. Not for the Fire Caste the costly last stands, Pyrrhic victories, and ghastly meat grinders favored by such races as humanity or the orcs. For one thing, though it spans many star systems, the T'au Empire is still minuscule when examined upon a galactic scale. Its population is only so large, can only replace its casualties of war so fast, and struggles to keep up with the demands of an ever-expanding colonial border. Were the Fire Caste to throw away lives without good reason, the equation would become impossible to balance. Yet more than this, the T'au scorn such wasteful tactics as the last refuge of the terminally inept or barbaric. No fire warrior would hesitate to lay down their life if they believed it would further the cause of the greater good. Yet they would not willingly engage in senseless martyrdom. Indeed, should a Fire Caste commander lead their forces to victory at steep cost in lives, they are more likely to be shamed for the price of their conquest than for its achievement. The armies of the Fire Caste concentrate on subduing their enemies while preserving their own soldiers' lives. Their way of war relies upon momentum and continuous movement. It puts little stock in the capture of swaths of territory for the sake of planting flags. Indeed, their enemies' compulsion to hold symbolic but strategically meaningless locations, such as sacred temples or static fortifications, often plays into the hands of the Fire Caste, who can factor such illogical actions into their own plans. They will, of course, fight to secure sites such as communication hubs, supply depots, orbital defense silos, and the like. Yet, even then, this is done primarily to deny such assets to the foe. Ultimately, the Fire Caste seek to wear away their enemies' capability and willingness to fight on, and thus secure their capitulation with the minimum needless slaughter. Thus, they will often destroy captured strategic sites rather than claim them for their own. Not only does this prevent costly and escalating static engagements, but also the T'au eschew co-opting enemy installations when they can instead rely upon their own, clearly superior military equipment. Thanks to the tireless efforts of the Earth Caste, T'au technology is superior to that of almost any other race they have encountered. The Fire Caste acknowledge that even their most physically formidable warriors give something away in both reaction speed and brawn when set against many of the dangerous alien races they fight. Rather than try to compete upon what they view as the most barbaric level of warfare, the T'au instead look to technology, training, and devotion to the greater good to stack the odds in their favor. Even the lowest ranking and untested fire warrior takes to the field clad in resilient battle armor, one shoulder guard of which doubles as a formidable anti-ballistic shield. Their pulse firearms employ induction fields to propel particles that break down and create focused plasma blasts that can either be projected over extremely long ranges or in rapid storms of shorter-ranged fire. Such weaponry ensures fire warriors are well equipped to win firefights against most other line infantry in the galaxy. Their helmets boast hardened communications and sensory display systems, and in battle, their teams can call upon the support of an array of specialized AI-controlled drones. These loyal and resilient machines fulfill a wide array of roles, from flying force field projectors or energy transmitters that augment T'au weapons to mobile fire support platforms or grav wave generators. To make best use of their available arsenal, the Fire Caste place heavy emphasis on skilled marksmanship under pressure and the use of firearms over brute force even at close quarters. The result is a battle line of infantry that subjects the enemy to unrelenting storms of high-powered anti-personnel fire, whether pressing forward on the attack or holding steady in defense. For all their technology, the Fire Caste focus just as much attention on the personal and spiritual strength of the soldiers that wield it. Many teams train together from a young age, competing with and supporting one another until they are closer than any family. The ultimate expression of this bond is a ritual known as the T'au Fire, which roughly translates to a type of communion or binding oath. Those who have sworn such an oath as part of a bonding knife ritual may address each other by their individual names and have vowed to support one another unto death. It is not uncommon for teams to progress together as well. Veteran fire warrior teams may even earn promotion to the rank of Shao Sui together. Each might serve for a time as a squad leader for a different strike team or breacher team before the survivors are reunited as an XV8 Crisis battlesuit team. If fire warriors were all that the Fire Caste could bring to bear, then they would already be a powerful, albeit limited, military force. However, these are but the line infantry who provide the backbone for the armies of the T'au Empire. Most are born into battle aboard well-armored gravitic hover transports that keep the fire warriors mobile and well-protected and supported amidst the perils of the battlefield. Others man fortifications that are themselves grav-capable. Aboard these, the fire warriors can ride, facilitating mobile fortresses that can redeploy at need and carry their own garrisons with them as they go. Some Fire Caste warriors deploy as elite pathfinders who scout the foe and mark targets for long-ranged elimination, or spot for teams of deadly MV-71 sniper drones. Then there are the supporting formations, heavy gunships such as the TX-7 Hammerhead or TX-78 Skyray, mobile artillery assets like the mighty Storm Surge, a wealth of air caste air support ranging from smaller fighter craft to huge tank hunters like the AX-52 Barracuda and the vast Manta dropship. A plethora of iconic and deadly battlesuits that so epitomize the technological supremacy of the T'au way of war. Only the most veteran and proven fire warriors are permitted to pilot these wonder weapons, and wherever they strike, they dominate the combat sphere. Taken in their entirety, the armies of the Fire Caste are versatile and deadly, even before factoring in the orbital support provided by their air caste allies in the void above. This is a war machine honed to perfection, yet always willing to adapt and develop further so that it might better serve the greater good. Fundamental to the operation of this cutting-edge military machine are the philosophies of war that all fire warriors must strive to master. By far, the two most common forms of military tactics used by the T'au are the Mont Ka and the Cao Yon. Each method is taught in depth by the great Fire Caste academies, and each has its own adherents amongst the masters. Both styles are based on hunting techniques that date back to the early years of the T'au's evolutionary and social development, each representing one of the two broad approaches to ensnaring and slaying the quarry. The Cao Yon, which roughly translates as the patient hunter, is the oldest of the T'au ways of war. This style of combat relies upon employing one or more lures to draw the enemy in, before closing the jaws of the trap upon the foe once they have committed. The lure itself may be T'au teams, striking then feigning retreat. It may be enemy forces intentionally cut off and tricked into calling for help, or battlefield assets the enemy considers too precious to abandon to the T'au. True masters of Cao Yon employ layers of contingencies and multiple mobile lures to pull apart their enemy's cohesion before striking with sudden and decisive fury. The Mont Ka is the other leading T'au military philosophy, and it is both aggressive and risky to execute. translating as the killing blow. This strategy centers around highly mobile attack forces, identifying key targets and assailing them with overwhelming force before withdrawing to safety. Timing and intelligence are key to Mont Ka. Launching the attack against inadvisable odds or at an inauspicious time will likely spell disaster. Thus, do the Fire Caste plan every detail of their strike before it is launched, further building in contingencies to prevent needless casualties should fate or a cunning foe intervene. The Mont Ka may well come in rapid, overlapping assaults from different directions, the T'au employing their mobility and firepower to keep the enemy off balance. In the end, the decision to launch a Mont Ka or to call it off lies not with its commander, but rather with troops on the ground who have the best visibility. So it is that many Mont Ka attacks are called down by trusted teams of pathfinders behind enemy lines, while the successful execution of such an attack brings great honor to pathfinders and commander both. Of all the T'au commanders ever to lead or to teach, the famed commander Puretide was perhaps the greatest master of the Mont Ka, the Kalyon, and of other more unusual philosophies of war. Grievously wounded towards the end of his life, Puretide became a hermit, spending his last years committing his accumulated wisdom and experience to posterity. He wished to pass on his uniquely balanced style of war so that after his death, others could build upon his successes. All Fire Caste academies, from the world of T'au itself to the far reaches of the Empire, teach Puretide's work. The most promising students, perhaps only one in every generation, can still apprentice directly under the tutelage of Puretide himself. These elite disciples spend time with the old master thanks to the Earth Caste's holographic programming technology, which provides an interactive AI that thinks, responds, and contemplates. The ethereals tightly control access, but those few who meet the requirements join Puretide at his retreat atop Mount Kanji on Daliath Prime. Despite his efforts, few, if any, of Puretide's students have grasped the full scope of his balanced enlightenment. Yet names such as Oshova, Oshasera, and the much-feared Okias are associated with the old master's tutelage, and while none mastered true balance, each emerged as a savant of their chosen martial philosophy. The T'au Empire's military campaigns vary in scope and requirement, from localized policing of alien piracy or remote special operations beyond the borders of T'au space, to full-blown expansion fleets whose duties are equal parts rapid colonization and martial conquest. Thus, the strategic composition and doctrine of the T'au military is kept fluid in order to allow the different castes to work in optimal conjunction. The smallest unit of T'au military organization is the team. Within the context of the Fire Caste, this is a formation comprising between 5 and 12 soldiers, including a team leader, who may or may not yet have earned the rank of Sha Shui. Multiple teams are combined beneath a single commander into a cadre. By far the most common of these formations is the Hunter Cadre, a tactically integrated battlefield force built around a core of fire warriors, but further incorporating battlesuits, armored transports, and gunships, alien auxiliary units, and mobile artillery. The precise composition of each Hunter Cadre varies depending upon available assets, the strategic situation, and the preferences of its commander. Regardless of their specific makeup, however, Hunter Cadres remain the dependable and adaptable mobile mainstay of most T'au deployments. There are numerous more specialized types of cadre standardized within the Code of Fire. The Rapid Insertion Cadre, which comprises only battlesuits, the Infiltration Cadre, made up of Pathfinders and Stealth battlesuits, the Auxiliary Reserve Cadre, which fields only alien auxiliaries, the Armored Interdiction Cadre, which masses T'au gunships in a devastating direct strike formation. The list continues and is always growing, but the Fire Caste encourage innovation in the optimal deployment of both new and existing military assets. Contingents are temporary assemblages of multiple cadres and are formed for the completion of specific campaign objectives. A contingent will be commanded by its most senior commander, except upon those occasions when an ethereal chooses to take direct command themselves. Upon the completion of its stated aims, the contingent is dissolved, and its elements redeployed to new contingents as the situation requires. In recent times, multiple contingents have been gathered into still larger formations known as communes. It is a symptom of the ever-growing scale of the wars the T'au must fight that such a sizable formation be required at all. Yet there is no denying communes have proven highly effective, especially when they combined contingents from different septs in an alloy of specialisms and mutual cooperation. Lastly, all the T'au forces committed to a single location or war zone are referred to as a coalition. Each coalition is ruled over by an ethereal council. It is further made up of commands, which are the forces committed by each caste to that location of the war zone. For example, all the Fire Caste fighting on the world of Olmeth would be referred to collectively as the Fire Caste Command Olmeth. The Kroot. The Kroot are by far the most common alien auxiliaries serving in the Fire Caste's armies. With billions of their kind armed for war and assigned to hunter cadres of nearly every sept. Although their primitive aggression is viewed with distaste by the T'au, such inherent savagery makes them particularly effective shock troops. The T'au and the Kroot have long enjoyed a mutually beneficial alliance. The origins of their compact lie in the closing days of the First Sphere expansion, when an exploration fleet out of Daliath Sept came across a fierce battle between alien species. On one side were the orcs, already despised by the T'au for their brutish nature. On the other fought a species the T'au had not encountered before, but whose noble and tenacious spirit they swiftly found themselves admiring. What had begun as a scientific observation escalated into full-blown conflict as the T'au were moved to deploy their fleet and come to the rescue of the hopelessly outnumbered Kroot. So was the world of Kroot relieved, and many Kroot spared. Yet the T'au did not have long to enjoy their victory. Where one greenskin horde is found, inevitably more are close by, and this was no exception. The T'au relief force were soon compelled to ally themselves with the Kroot, as fresh orc forces arrived from the void to join the fight. To the mutual surprise of both T'au and Kroot, their two races fought well alongside one another, each covering for gaps in the tactical capabilities of the other. In this way, they formed a martial alloy tough enough to hold out against the greenskins until reinforcements from the T'au Sept could arrive to turn the tables once more. This first joint campaign has become known as the War in the Place of Union, a great and historical moment for both races. Compelled by the T'au Va and intrigued by their ferocious new allies, the T'au forces agreed to stay and aid the Kroot in liberating their remaining enclaves from the orcs. So began a campaign that ended upon the Kroot homeworld of Peck. There, at the sacred Oath Stone, the legendary Kroot leader Angkor Proc swore allegiance to the T'au Empire and pledged his warriors to fight for the greater good and regular payment. The Kroot are first and foremost a mercenary species. Their ethics are, in some ways, enormously divergent from those of the T'au. Yet somehow the two races have found more common ground than they have differences. Kroot live in kindreds, gathering somewhere between mercenary companies, extended tribal families, and nomadic warbands. Each is led by one or more Kroot shapers. None outside of the Kroot themselves know how a shaper is appointed, nor the precise source of their unusual wisdom. The Kroot of their kindred follow them with fierce loyalty. Within their society, the shaper's word is law. One of the most important duties of the shapers is to act as negotiators. They seek out mercenary employment for their kindred and set the terms of each contract. Many of these arrangements are formed with the T'au, but by no means all of them. Kroot have little compunction as to their employers, nor the nature of their often dirty and brutal jobs they are hired to perform. Their strange, void-faring war spheres ply the space lanes far and wide. and Kroot mercenaries have been seen fighting for human inquisitors and rogue traders, alongside Eldari of various sorts, in allegiance with gnarl-skinned demiurge, and on behalf of even stranger and more shadowy employers. There are exceptions to this open policy, of course. Few Kroot would stoop so low as to fight alongside servants of the ruinous powers, while none would ever sully themselves by fighting for the orcs. Compared to the T'au, Kroot are warlike and bloodthirsty savages, yet they are neither stupid nor bestial. The Kroot are uncommonly skilled trackers and wilderness fighters, experts in fieldcraft who swiftly master the perils and boons of each new ecosystem they encounter. Their preference is for ambush hunting, whittling their enemies down with repeated volleys from their bulky rifles before unleashing their charge. That onslaught, when it comes, is terrifying to behold. Wiry and agile, limbs cabled with taut muscles, the Kroot surge into the fight while voicing shrill avian cries. They fall upon their foes with a ferocity that explains why Kroot warriors are collectively known as carnivores. Blades at each end of their rifles allows them to hack and slash at their foes, the most skillful spinning these weapons like blurring quarterstaffs. Yet the Kroot possess natural weapons also, in the form of talons and beak-like maws lined with sharp fangs. They have no qualms about using these to rip their enemies to bloody tatters. This unrestrained bloodshed is sickening to the T'au, yet what comes after distresses them even more. Earth Caste scientists theorize that the Kroot possess a unique morphagic biology that allows them to consciously absorb the desirable traits of those whose flesh they devour. Thus, even as the last shots of battle are being fired, the Kroot set about feasting on the flesh of the fallen. They are forbidden from eating T'au corpses, but this is the only concession their allies have been able to exact from the Kroot on this front. The aliens have no taboo regarding cannibalism and regularly eat of their own fallen comrades, so that strength may pass from the dead into those who still require it to live. Here, the Shapers perform their other main duty, directing their warriors when and how to taste the flesh of their enemies. It seems apparent that over a period of time, this practice can provoke pronounced morphological changes in the Kroot. Reports exist of these aliens developing longer limbs, greater muscle mass, chameleonic properties to their skin, or even membranous wings. Eating battlefield carrion is not the only way in which the Kroot strengthen themselves. Many kindreds cut a bloody path across the stars, fighting under many banners and through wildly varying conflicts in which they learn swiftly or else they die. It is not uncommon for Kroot to claim all manner of strange weapons and other potent war gear as payment for their mercenary services, and in preference to any form of coin. After all, the T'au are not the only race in the galaxy with weaponry that the Kroot would gladly wield. Moreover, The predatory skill that such hard-bitten veteran killers develop over time only renders them all the more wily and dangerous upon the field of battle. Another strange facet of the mutable Kroot genome is that their species possesses numerous offshoots. While clearly separate strains, these share not only physical characteristics with their parent species, but also close kinship. Several of them regularly accompany Kroot kindreds into battle. Kroot hounds, for example, are bad-tempered beasts whose keen senses aid them in tracking down prey, and whose beak-like maws can tear through flak-weave armor with ease. The Kroot often release these creatures in hunting packs to maul vulnerable or fleeing foes. Another beast commonly found alongside Kroot troops is the lumbering Krootox, a hulking creature whose broad back serves as a mobile weapons platform. A heavy cannon is strapped to the beast, and a Kroot warrior climbs aboard its mighty haunches to operate the gun. Although not aggressive as a rule, the Krootox will fight ferociously to defend its comrades, whom the beast sees as its herd brothers. Insignia of Empire. The armies of the T'au Empire are magnificent to look upon. Each sept has its own heraldic colors and its own signifying glyph worn proudly by its warriors. With sleek armored soldiery and dynamic battlesuits, flanked by strange alien auxiliaries and high-tech gunships, these are armies of melded contrasts that epitomize the wider ethos of the T'au Empire. A regimented system of helm colors and armor markings is evident throughout the T'au Empire, applied uniformly across the armies of every sept. From indications of rank and seniority to signifiers of honor, such as the Taluricera, bonding ritual, or status as a chosen bodyguard. These sigils convey their meaning to all T'au at a glance. In the same way, the traditional color schemes of each sept are instantly recognizable to their fellows from other regions of the Empire. Not only does this visual standardization help enormously when forming larger coalition forces, but it also carries the weight of proud martial tradition that underpins all T'au military undertakings. With all this said, the T'au are pragmatic enough to recognize that the realities of combat and the priority of preserving lives must come before pomp and ceremony. Thus, many T'au cadres have their armor and vehicles rapidly recolored between war zones in order to adopt camouflage schemes more appropriate to whatever theater they are about to fight in. Such flexibility and common sense aids them greatly in battle.